All right, third grade, we are going to be going through hot cross buns, and I'm going to help you label the pitches in hot cross buns. So that's the letter names of your notes that you have here. Now before you dive right in here, let's do a quick reminder of how you figure out what those notes are. I have a little staff drawn up here that we can use as a key, and you can do this on your paper too if that's something that's going to help you, or you can just use mine. So remember, when you're trying to figure out a pitch name, you're going to first decide, does the note head, so the circle that you see, does it sit right on top of a line, or does it sit in between two lines in a space? There's a saying for your lines and a saying for your spaces. So if it's on a line, you're going to use the saying, every good boy does fine. And you take the first letter of each of those. So every good boy does fine. Starting at the bottom always and working your way up. So if your note sits on the bottom line, that's an E. If it sits on the second, it's a B, a G. If it's the third, it's a B, D, F, etc., etc. Now, if it sits in a space, you're going to spell the word face, also starting at the bottom and working your way up. So your bottom space is an F. Second space is an A, third space is a C, and fourth space is an E. So let's go through that process note by note through hot cross buns to see if we can get these labeled. So your very first note, we're always looking at that note head, remember. The stem does not matter. That tells us how long we hold the note. It doesn't tell us the note name. We are looking for the note name. That all comes from the circle. The circle is sitting on a line. Because it's a line, I'm going to use my saying. Every good boy does fine. So I'm going to take my pencil and go line by line here saying my words as I go. Every good boy does fine. My pencil was right here on the third line, boy. So that means your first note is going to be a B. I'm going to write a capital B above that note. And make sure you're using capital letters to label, never lowercase, because lowercase letters do mean something different in music, at least our lowercase b's do. Now let's move on to our next note. Think to yourself, is that note head sitting in a space or on a line? In a space. So because it's in a space, you're going to use your saying face. So let's figure out which note this is. We're going to start at the bottom and spell face. F-A C-E. So this note is going to be A. Let's continue that process with your third note here. This one is on a line. I'm going to use my saying, every good boy does fine. E, G, B, D, F. That is a G. Skipping ahead to our next note. Also on a line. Every good boy does fine. So it's going to be a B. You have a space again, F-A-C-E, your A. On a line once again, so you're saying every good boy does fine, that's going to be your G. Notice that this does this twice, right? We have a pattern. If you keep looking ahead, you'll see that you have that pattern come up again. So I'm going to go ahead and label where I see that. Because we already did that. We know what that's going to be. So now I just have these 8 notes remaining. Let's figure these out as we go. Every good boy does fine because we're on a line. That is a G. Now I have 4 G's. I'm going to go ahead and label all of them. You can just label one if that helps you, whatever works for you to be able to play correctly and accurately understanding your notes. Now your next one is in a space. So we have F-A-C-E. It's going to be your A right here. And these 4 notes are the same as well. And there you have it. There are all your pitches for hot cross buns. Remember, you can use these sayings, every good boy does fine, and F-A-C-E, to find your answers. Now, before I sign off this video, I did want to point out a few symbols that we have been talking about in class as well. First off, we have this symbol at the very end. It's a set of 2 lines. This is called your double bar line. Now, your double bar line is a symbol that stands for the end of a piece of music. Notice you have 2 lines here. Then you also have bar lines, which are just these single vertical lines that separate your measures. Okay, those are just called your bar lines or your measure lines. Both are correct. Last thing I want to point out is this set of numbers that comes in the beginning of your music. That we do have a definition for on our page. It is a time signature. The top number in the time signature tells you how many beats are in a measure. So for example, Hot Cross Buns does have 4 beats in a measure. You have a half note and a half note. Each half note gets 2 beats. 2 plus 2 is 4, so this measure is going to have 4. Then we have that bar line that separates it. 2 beats plus 2 beats with our half rest, 4 once again. And that continues all the way through the piece. So think of those as like spaces. They help us to read better so that we can keep everything organized throughout our playing. All right, I hope that was helpful for you for Hot Cross Buns.